What horrors lie down that old forgotten footpath just beyond the trees and so far from our mortal understanding? What really happens in the forest during a hunter's moon? Thanks for joining me tonight as we brave 5 scary hiking stories that are almost certain to make you avoid the woods. Number 5. The Call of the Wild. I had always been fascinated by the woods, their allure, their mystique, the way they conveyed secrets through rustling leaves and dancing shadows. So when the opportunity presented itself for a weekend hiking trip into the heart of a dense forest nearby, I couldn't resist. Little did I know this seemingly innocent adventure would unravel into a nightmare far beyond comprehension. The forest stood tall and imposing, its canopy casting an eerie darkness over the trail. My heart pounded as I took my first steps into the wilderness, the crunch of leaves beneath my boots echoing like distant screams. I had always heard tales of strange happenings within these particular woods, but I brushed them off as mere superstitions, and nothing could deter me from exploring the unknown. As I delved deeper into the forest's clutches, the daylight began to fade at a surprising rate. The trees loomed closer, their branches twisting and tangling like skeletal fingers, beckoning me onward. While a chilling sensation crept up my spine and an inexplicable fear gripped my soul, I tried to dismiss these feelings as pure imagination. Suddenly, the wind picked up, causing an eerie symphony of creaking branches and rustling leaves. I glanced nervously behind me, but saw only darkness, a vast void swallowing the trail I had come from. Panic fluttered in my chest, but I forced myself to keep moving forward, convincing myself that this fear was just a trick of my mind. As I wandered deeper, the forest seemed to shift around me. The once familiar trail morphed into an intricate maze. Slowly, terror started to replace my initial excitement, and I struggled to find my way back. Every path looked identical, and the trees seemed to leer at my confusion. Suddenly, I heard faint whispers carried by the wind, soft, haunting voices that seemed to call my name from all directions. "Come follow us. Come follow us," they repeated, growing louder with each passing moment. My heart pounded in my chest, and I couldn't tell if it was the result of fear or something else entirely. Driven by an inexplicable compulsion, I followed these whispers, hoping they would lead me to safety. But with each step, the darkness deepened, and the voices grew more insistent, as if they wanted to lure me deeper into the forest's heart. I tried to resist, to turn back, but it was as if an invisible force compelled my every movement. As I wandered aimlessly, the forest played sinister tricks on my senses. Shadows danced, taking grotesque forms that clawed at the edges of my sanity. The trees seemed to close in around me, their branches attempting to ensnare me like a spider's web. My breaths became rapid and shallow, my mind a battlefield between reason and madness. Eventually, I stumbled upon an old, dilapidated cabin hidden amongst the trees. Against my better judgment, I entered this abode, seeking refuge from the ever-darkening forest. The air within the cabin was thick and suffocating, and filled with the stench of decay. The unnerving whispers that plagued me seemed to emanate from the very walls of this place, and that sense of being watched only intensified. Realizing I'd made a detrimental mistake, and in a bid to escape this cabin's claustrophobic grasp, I turned to leave, but the door had vanished, leaving behind only a solid wall of wood. Trapped completely, I felt a coldness entangle my heart. The cabin seemed to come alive, its walls pulsating with an otherworldly energy. In the blink of an eye, a haunting figure materialized before me, an ethereal woman dressed in tattered white, her face obscured by the darkness. Before I could react, she reached out, her voice a chilling echo. "You cannot leave, for you have entered the realm of the lost." Terrified, I screamed, pounding on the walls in a futile desperation not dissimilar to those bad dreams in which you can't find a familiar door or hallway. The cabin seemed to mock my attempts at escape, its very essence absorbing my anguish. My mind unraveled as the whispers intensified, each word a dagger that pierced deeper into my rationale. And then time lost all meaning, and the forest devoured me whole, trapping me within its malevolent grasp. I became one with its haunting whispers, forever lost amongst the shadows, my soul bound to the wood's eternal torment. And so, dear listener, heed my warning. Beware the call of the wild, for you may find yourself ensnared in its haunting clutches, never to return to the world of the living. Number 4. The Hunter's Moon. In the heart of the desolate forest, there lurked an ancient legend surrounding the Hunter's Moon, a cursed night when vengeful spirits emerged from the shadows to exact their revenge on trespassers. Despite these ominous tales, a group of daring thrill-seekers, including myself, decided to test the validity of the haunting stories and venture into these forbidden woods on the fateful night of the aforementioned lunar phase. As we explored deeper and deeper into the forest, a sense of foreboding enveloped us. The dread moon cast an eerie glow, creating grotesque silhouettes that danced around us. With every rustle of the foliage, my heart pounded like a war drum, and the chilling wind seemed to whisper malevolent secrets. Under the Hunter's Moon, the laws of the natural world seemed to twist and contort. The branches of the trees appeared to reach out like skeletal hands, attempting to ensnare any unwitting wanderers. The distant hooting of owls seemed like haunting dirges, and the moonlight flickered as if the darkness itself were reaching out to claim us. Our group tried to maintain a facade of bravado, laughing nervously and brushing off this eerie atmosphere. But as we pressed on, cracks in our veneer began to show. The forest's oppressive presence was inescapable, and our senses became hyper-alert to every rustle and creak. Eventually, we stumbled upon an ancient and dilapidated hunting lodge that appeared to be untouched by time. It stood as a forgotten relic, bearing the scars of untold horrors that had unfolded within its walls. Despite the warnings of our instincts, curiosity led us inside. The air inside the lodge was heavy with the scent of mildew, and a thick layer of dust covered every surface. Silence within this domain was deafening, save for the faint echo of our very own footsteps. Fear gnawed at our minds, and we couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched or even followed. As we explored this lodge, we discovered haunting relics, a collection of faded photographs, discarded weapons, and cryptic symbols etched into the walls. As we went on, the sense of being watched only intensified, and our laughter faded into anxious whispers. As we gathered into one of the lodge's many rooms, the temperature seemed to plummet suddenly, and a chilling fog swirled around us, materializing into ghostly figures. We gasped in terror as the spirits of long-deceased hunters materialized right in front of us, their eyes hollow and accusatory. "You dare trespass on sacred grounds," one of the spirits moaned, their voice a haunting echo of the past. "This Hunter's Moon will be your last." Paralyzed with fear, we could only watch as the spirits encircled us, their cold breath brushing against our skin. Together, inexplicably and all at once, these spirits spoke of ancient blood feuds and injustices that had been committed in the woods. In desperation, we pleaded for forgiveness, vowing to leave the forest and never return, but the spirits were unyielding, and the lodge's very walls seemed to close in on us, trapping us within its malevolent grasp. As the clock struck midnight, the air became charged with a dark energy, and the spirits' faces twisted and contorted into masks of fury. We tried to flee, but the lodge seemed to morph, changing its layout to disorient us. With a sudden surge of malevolence, the spirits lunged at us, and the hunt began. Our hearts pounded as we raced through the maze-like lodge, the undead hunters only steps behind us. It was as if the very walls had come to life, shifting and rearranging to torment us. In a frenzy, we navigated through this nightmarish complex, every shadow and sound threatening to consume us. I pushed myself to the limits of exhaustion, praying to escape the clutches of the Hunter's Moon hunt. And finally, to my relief, and after what felt like hours, we found ourselves at the lodge's entrance. We stumbled into the moonlit night, gasping for breath, and though we eventually made it back to civilization, our escape was not without consequence. For the spirit's wrath had marked us, and as the Hunter's Moon sank below the horizon, we could all feel their anger, their violence coursing through our veins. From that night forward, we've all felt haunted, as if we're simply vessels for the presences we encountered on our fateful hike. The forest's curse had clung to us like a shadow, a reminder of the horrors we'd witnessed. Now, we wonder, feeling alone amongst our peers, like living ghosts haunted by the memory of that horrible, horrible night. The Hunter's Moon continues to rise each year, and none of us can deny feeling a stir of the spirits within, seeking their just dues, seeking new life. For though we escaped that dreadful lodge, we couldn't deny that it felt as if pieces of our very souls remained lost in that forest, nor that the Hunter's Moon hadn't indeed claimed its intended victims. Number 3. The Veiled Trail. Deep within the heart of the woods lay a trail that few had dared to tread. The Veiled Trail, which was aptly named for the eerie mist that seemingly constantly shrouded it day and night. Legends whispered tales of a spectral figure that guarded the path, warning any who sought to venture through. Intrigued by this mystery, I set out alone on a cold autumn morning to challenge this enigmatic trail. As I entered the woods, an unsettling silence enveloped me. The leaves underfoot seemed to crunch with a heavy echo, and an unnatural quiet maintained. Undeterred, I pressed forward, eager to uncover the truth behind the eerie tales I'd heard so many times before. As per reputation, the trail was veiled in a dense fog that clung to the air, obscuring my surroundings. It was as if this mist had a life of its own, shifting and swirling with an ethereal grace. With each step, I felt a chill seep into my bones, and a gnawing feeling of being watched crept over me. As I ventured deeper onto the Veiled Trail, this mist grew thicker, and the world around me faded into a haunting gray void. I strained my ears, listening for any signs of life, but only silence prevailed. Panic began to claw at my throat, but I pushed forward, determined to conquer my fear. Suddenly, a soft, mournful melody drifted through the fog, tugging at my heartstrings. I hesitated for a moment, my curiosity warring with my instincts. The tune was both haunting and alluring, as if it held the secrets of the woods themselves. Against my better judgment, I followed this melody, each step guided by its enchanting notes. It led me deeper and deeper into the mist, until I could barely see my own hands in front of my face. My heart pounded, and my senses were on high alert, but I couldn't bring myself to turn back now. Suddenly, the melody ceased, and I found myself standing before a curious sight, a circle of ancient, moss-covered stones. To me, they stood like sentinels, their origins lost to time. In the center of the circle, and without warning, a pale figure draped in tattered robes appeared, her face veiled by darkness. My breath caught in my throat as I tried to make sense of what I was witnessing. Was this the specter of the Veiled Trail? Without warning, the figure raised her head, and her veiled eyes locked onto mine. Her voice echoed like a distant whisper, a chilling blend of sorrow and longing. "Why have you come?" she asked, her words both a question and a warning. In truth, I was there to explore the trail, to uncover its mysteries, but in that moment, my voice failed me. However, it was as if this ghastly manifestation knew my very thoughts. The figure regarded me with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. "The Veiled Trail is no place for the curious or faint of heart. It holds secrets the living are not meant to know." Still speechless, I found the courage to stand my ground. The veiled figure considered me for a moment before speaking again. "Very well, but be warned, knowledge comes at a great price. And once you tread this path, there's no turning back." Then, something odd compelled me to nod, accepting the terms of whatever journey lay ahead. The figure extended a pale, slender hand, and without hesitation, I reached forward and took it. The moment our hands touched, the mist around us swirled with an otherworldly force, enveloping me in a cocoon of memories. Visions flashed before my eyes, a tapestry of lives and experiences, each woven into the fabric of the trail's history. I played witness to the laughter of children playing amongst its trees, to the tears of those who had lost their way, and to the whispers of lovers who had sought solace within its mists. Memories coursed through me, filling me with a profound understanding of the forest and the past. It was as if I had become one with the spirits that lingered here, forever bound to the Veiled Trail. When these visions finally subsided, I found myself standing alone amidst the ancient stones. The veiled figure was gone, leaving only that haunting melody echoing through the air. As I made my way back through the mist, a sense of reverence and awe washed over me. These woods had granted me a gift, the gift of knowledge and of connection to the spirits that dwelled there, and my life has never been the same. Number 2, The Hollow. In a remote corner of the wilderness, there existed a foreboding forest known only as the Hollow, a place where shadows seemed to writhe with a life of their own, and strange, eerie sounds echoed through the dense foliage. Tales of hikers disappearing without a trace within its confines spread like wildfire, yet I, a bit of a daredevil, felt an irresistible pull toward this chilling unknown. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I set foot into the hollow, accompanied only by the soft glow of a lantern. The forest seemed to close in around me, its twisted branches clawing at the night sky like skeletal fingers. Each step echoed like a heavy heartbeat, magnified by the suffocating silence that enveloped me. I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone, and the haunting sounds that emanated from the depths of these woods only intensified that sensation. There was an undeniable presence, a malevolence that hung heavy in the air, but driven by curiosity and a thirst for adventure, I pressed on. As I ventured deeper, the forest seemed to shift and change its layout, as if it were playing a sinister game, leading me further and further into its web of deception. The moon above, obscured by a canopy of gnarled branches, cast eerie shadows that danced along the forest floor like elusive specters. An unnatural cold permeated the air, and I shivered, feeling as if unseen eyes followed my every movement. My lantern flickered, and I heard distant wails that sounded to me like the mournful cries of lost souls. Fear gnawed at my mind, yet I couldn't bring myself to turn back. In the heart of the hollow, I stumbled upon a positively ancient, weathered-looking statue, its features ruined by time. The unsettling feeling of being watched grew more profound, and the wailing around me became more insistent. Suddenly, and without warning, the statue's eyes flickered to life, glowing with an otherworldly light. The ground beneath me trembled, and a chorus of ghostly voices filled the air, reciting some sort of chant in a language I couldn't place that sent instant shivers down my spine. Frozen in place, I witnessed the statue transform into a nightmarish figure, a spectral guardian of the hollow. Its inhuman eyes locked onto mine, and an oppressive aura radiated from its very being. Then, the forest seemed to awaken with a life of its own, the trees groaning and creaking as if breathing. Shadows dancing around me, forming sinister shapes that seemed to reach out, threatening to engulf me. Desperate to escape, I turned to flee, but the hollow had other plans. The very earth beneath my feet shifted, creating a labyrinth of twisted roots that ensnared my feet. Trapped, I was at the mercy of this unknown force. As I struggled, the ghostly figure drew closer, its spectral hands outreached. It spoke words of an ancient curse, its voice intertwining with the haunting whispers of the forest. I felt a malevolent force seeping into my very being, as if the woods were claiming me as one of their own. In a desperate bid for survival, I recited a prayer, one of the few that I actually knew, a plea for protection from whatever dwelled above. Miraculously, the spectral figure faltered, its ethereal form seeming to wane in power. Taking advantage of its momentary weakness, I wrenched myself free from the root's grasp and ran as fast as I could. But the forest seemed to protest my escape, the very trees reaching out to snatch me back. Gasping for breath, I emerged from the hollow, leaving the malevolent woods behind. Its haunting sounds and chilling wails receded with every step, but the terror of that encounter lingered, etched into my mind. To this day, the hollow remains a place best left forgotten, a cursed sanctuary for lost souls and evil spirits. Its chilling presence dwells within my nightmares, a constant reminder that some mysteries are best left undisturbed, and that the forest holds secrets far darker than the human mind can comprehend. Number 1. Footsteps. In a remote and desolate forest, there is a hiking trail that locals speak of only in hushed tones, a small, unremarkable, and unnamed footpath. As legend has it, this trail was cursed by a malevolent presence, and those who dared to venture upon it would be plagued by chilling encounters that defy explanation. Undeterred by these ominous tales, a group of friends and I decided to brave this footpath. As I stepped onto the trail, the forest felt oppressive, and an inexplicable feeling of being watched took hold. The once cheerful sun seemed obscured by a thick canopy of twisted branches, casting the woods into an eternal twilight. With every step, a sense of dread grew, and an eerie silence hung in the air. The forest seemed to close in around us, and the rustling of leaves sent shivers down our spines. I tried to shake off a strong feeling of unease, but it clung to me like a suffocating fog. As night fell, we decided to make camp near an old, dilapidated cabin that stood as a haunting relic of the past. The flickering glow of our campfire offered little comfort against the darkness that seemed to swallow the woods whole. Chillingly, in the dead of night, eerie sounds echoed through this forest. It could have been our imaginations, but on several occasions we thought we heard moaning, the crunching of leaves, and most disturbingly, laughter. As I lay in my tent, balancing on the edge of sleep, I heard faint whispers that seemed to drift on the winds. They were unintelligible, but their chilling tone made my blood run cold. I tried to convince myself that I was entering dream state, but the whispers persisted, growing louder and more insistent. Suddenly, a sharp crack echoed nearby, causing everyone to jolt awake. We scrambled out of our tent, searching for the source of this sound. Fear hung thick in the air as we strained our ears, listening for any sign of movement. And that's when we heard it, the haunting sound of footsteps approaching from the darkness. These footsteps were slow and deliberate, as if someone or something was coming towards us with purpose. In a panic, we began to gather our belongings and rush to flee this evil place. But the trail seemed to have other plans. The path that had brought us here was now nowhere to be found. The trees shifted and twisted, confusing our sense of direction. It was as if the woods were playing a twisted game, trapping us in their nightmarish embrace. With no escape in sight, save running blindly through the forest, the footsteps drew nearer, their sound growing louder with each passing moment. I could feel the weight of an unseen presence bearing down on us, suffocating us with its unknown intent. As we huddled together, paralyzed with fear, the source of these footsteps finally emerged from the darkness. It was a figure draped in tattered robes, its face not visible under the shadows. It moved with an unnatural grace, its steps now barely making sound as it almost drifted across the forest floor. Suddenly, this figure lunged toward us and we screamed in terror, but instead of striking, it passed through us like a wisp of smoke, leaving a trail of icy cold in its wake. In that chilling moment, we knew the legends were true, that the footpath was in fact cursed, and that we had awakened whatever presence lingered there. As we fled the woods, the ominous footsteps pursued us the entire time, their echo imprinted in our minds. Though we finally made it back to civilization, from that night and onward, our journey had forever changed us, leaving us all with lingering fears of the dark, of the unknown, and of the archaic secrets that lay hidden just beyond the realm of the living. To this day, and usually right when I'm lying down in my bed and when sleep evades me, I still hear those footsteps, seemingly just a little closer each time. Thanks for joining me for these tales of terror. If you enjoyed listening to my scary stories, subscribe to my channel, like this upload, and share me with anyone you think needs a good fright. Pleasant dreams.